Come, let us explore perfect posture for beginners, especially those over 40. Consider, if you will, this drawing right here with a hairless fellow. Kind of reminds me of, was it NoHo Hank from that wonderful series on HBO? Anyway, every time we breathe in, whether we know it or not, we're wired to generate a vertical traction between our head and our tush. I should say between our tush and our head. Every time we exhale, whether we know it or not, we're wired to release that traction at least a little bit. We can pretend that we maybe went to a special event and we loosened our tie and pulled it off, and then put it under our chin and then pulled up on it. What would that feel like? Well, that's what we're doing during our inhalation. For some reason, pulling in that manner is sustainable. The first time you do anything, it's awkward. But repetition is the mother of skill. So sit in meditation at least once every 12 hours or so. Or if you're doing brisk walking meditation, you can also generate that vertical traction between your tush and your head. Do this every 12 hours, and within a week or two, you could master the ideal posture for sitting in meditation. When I was living at one of Thich Nhat Hanh's monasteries, an older gentleman whose title was vice abbot, but who was the true abbot in spirit, told me that if I slouch, it's exhausting. If I maintain an optimal posture, it's actually easier in the long run. This was many, many years ago, and his advice proved accurate. Having completed our opening lesson, it is Ahsoka Tano Thursday evening. Come, let us meditate like a Jedi after 30 seconds of housekeeping. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. For more than 30 years, I've spent about 8 hours a day, almost every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of each school of meditation so that you would not have to. Welcome, my friend, to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is made possible, wrong button, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. What I think I'll do is this. I'm going to tap button 14. So button 14 is page 34. Does this read 34? Yes, it does. Welcome to Yongjia Xuanjui's Song of Enlightenment, translated by a fellow known as Red Pine, adapted and amplified by yours truly. Please chant with me. People do not notice the wish-fulfilling jewel among jewels, waiting for them in their Buddha nature's Tathagata. So this is, I'm going to take a moment to edit to make it easier to chant. Thank you for tuning in. Do bear with me while I finish up this edit to make it easier both to chant and to understand. Almost done. Thank you once again for your patience. Let's chant. People do not notice the wish-fulfilling jewel among jewels, waiting for them in the Buddha nature's Tathagata. Its sixfold powers unleash as we relaxed into our exhalation, neither empty nor not. Its perfect light of awareness access during our inhalation is neither visible nor not. Okay, so what does this mean? Buddha nature is just a charming Iron Age way, metaphor, really, for the subtle workings of our central nervous system that have evolved in such a way as to make mastery of the Buddha's Eightfold Path possible. Let's explore this in greater detail. I'm going to change pages or change texts. One more moment and then I will show you what I'm referring to. So, how does this Buddha nature thing work? It all comes down to the neurology of mindfulness and meditation. Let us begin with mindfulness. Every time we inhale, whether we know it or not, let's try it a different way. The most efficient way to practice mindfulness is to silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this during our inhalation. Doing so induces our cerebral cortex to cooperate with our sympathetic nervous system ensconced within the middle third of our spinal cord. This sympathetic nervous system has evolved to help us to notice in a very special way, to help us notice vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly. But notice what? Notice mind's antics of perception. You know, seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, smelling, and the like, including emotion, intention, cognition, recollection, and imagination. Now, what is it that we are to do with all this stuff that we notice? And that's where meditation enters the picture. Every time we silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb ease during our exhalation, we induce our cerebral cortex to cooperate with the parasympathetic nervous system divided between the lower third and the upper third of our spinal cord. This parasympathetic nervous system has evolved to support both physical relaxation as well as mental release that is so poignant. It helps us to fleetingly so let go of what we noticed during our previous inhalation that we find it fleetingly less tantalizing, less permanent, and less defining. As a fringe benefit of regularly playing with mindfulness and meditation, first we calm not only the fear and aggression of our amygdala, but its propensity to control our choices, utterances, and deeds. Second benefit is that it stimulates this region right here, known as the anterior cingulate gyrus, the seat of empathy. It functions as the hub of our mirror neurons, the root of compassion and love. So, let's wrap this up in a nice red bow. What is our Buddha nature? Our Buddha nature is an Iron Age way of describing our sympathetic nervous system, which is the seat of mindfulness, our parasympathetic nervous system, which is the seat of meditation, and our anterior cingulate gyrus, which is the seat of empathy. This is standard factory-installed equipment for every healthy human. In fact, for most healthy, great animals. When I say great animals, I mean things bigger than a bug. And so the message in that passage we just read describes that this is a wish-fulfilling jewel. What does that mean? That's a very poetic way of saying that's like the Buddhist version or the ancient Indian version of Aladdin's lamp. And it's meant to be taken figuratively. So in other words, the peace that we desire, the love that we desire, the wisdom that we desire is latent within us. And all we need to do is cooperate with our standard factory issued equipment, which is why the Buddha taught in the penultimate passage of the Satipatthana Sutta that it is possible to master his path in as little as a week or two. So having explored this quite thoroughly, let's explore how to count creases. So we can explore, now that we've explored the mental aspect of meditation, let's explore the physical aspect for a moment or two. Welcome to the first quarter of mindful crease counting meditation. Over the span of 12 inhalations, we could advance our right thumb in the following manner, beginning with our little finger. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Multiply, let me check the time. Multiply this by 4 sets, and you've got 48 inhalations. We could count those 4 sets on our left hand. 1, 2, 3, 4 sets of 12 inhalations each. And so at this point, one more thing. To keep track of this, our first set, we could rest the great knuckle at the base of our right little finger upon the tip of our left little finger, palms up in our lap. Doing so could gently invite our real or imagined subtle energies to coalesce in the bladder region of our lower abdomen. So now that we know what to do with our mind, and now that we know what to do with our hands and even our spine, let's meditate. Let us return to the 10th verse of the Song of Enlightenment. Okay, thank you for your patience. Okay, let's chant. Purify the five roots of hate, greed, jealousy, and pride that you notice during your inhalation. And acquire the five abilities of mirror-like wisdom, discerning wisdom, and all-pervasive wisdom, accomplishing wisdom, and equalizing wisdom by relaxing into your exhalation. Okay, so I think it would be better if I hit that. Let's make sure that fits on the display. It appears to. Excellent. Only then will you know what cannot be measured. An image in a mirror is not hard to see, but try to grab the moon in the water. Okay, so here's how it works. We'll explain that. Here's how it works. Every time we breathe in, we are wired to notice all manner of things. The external, the internal, the physical, the mental, the pleasurable, the painful, the interesting, the boring, the glorious, and the grotesque. Our means of purifying the filthy McNasties that we see within the inner recesses of our heart is not through self-talk or belief or repression, but through vulnerability. We notice whatever comes up as we breathe in. And as we relax into our exhalation, those same things transform. Hate transforms into mirror-like wisdom. Greed transforms into discerning wisdom. Dullness transforms into all-pervading wisdom. Jealousy transforms into all-accomplishing wisdom. Pride transforms into equalizing wisdom. So these 5 wisdoms are not some antidotes. They are the result of applying the antidote. What is the antidote? The awareness and release that are already latent within each inhalation and exhalation due to a happy coincidence of evolution. So this is the key to the metaphoric omniscience of viscerally letting go of whatever we notice. Letting go does not mean we stop perceiving what we noticed. It means we've stopped fighting what we noticed. We stop being controlled by what we noticed. We stop being controlled by our resistance to the presence of what we dread. We stop being controlled by our resistance to the absence of what we desire. As we relax, so as we can, as a child, there was a point where I was fascinated with the mirror. And I kept trying to use my eye to look inside my eye in the mirror and all that kind of weird stuff. And of course, that reminds me of the song by the English Beat, Mirror in the Bathroom, but that was a different... That was a song appropriate for junior high. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. You know what I mean? So, an image in a mirror is easy to see, but not easy to grasp. So, as we breathe in, that's the seeing. As we relax into our exhalation, that's the visceral experience of non-graspability. So, together as a team, welcome to the second quarter of Mindful Crease Counting Meditation. Over the span of 12 inhalations, we could count... We could advance the right thumb in the following manner, beginning with our little finger. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Multiply that by 4 sets, and you've got 48 inhalations. We could count those 4 sets on our left hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 sets of 12 inhalations each. To keep track of this, our second quarter, we could rest the great knuckle at the base of our right ring finger. Upon the tip of our left ring finger, palms up in our lap. Doing that, could gently invite our real or imagined subtle energies to coalesce in the navel region of our mid-abdomen. One moment. What is the most efficient way to practice mindfulness? Silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this during the inhalation. What is the most efficient way to practice meditation? To silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb ease during each exhalation. Come, let us practice together right now. Please chant with me. Setting out alone, walking alone. Whoever arrives takes the road of nirvana. Their appearance ancient, their manner detached. Ragged and gaunt, they are not noticed. In the... I think it's the 38 verses on the way of a bodhisattva, it is written that one must leave home. That can be taken literally or figuratively, meaning that one's priorities undergo a radical shift. The Buddha taught that the path is all about our spiritual friendships. But the Buddha also taught that it's better to walk alone the path. Walk the path alone than in the company of a fool. In an interdependent universe where things affect other things and are in turn affected by other things, the people we associate with have a profound effect on our ability to master the path and help others do likewise. This path could be described as the road of nirvana or this path of nirvana. The Buddha, it's been said by some, and I am one of them, that enlightenment is nothing more than mastery of the Buddha's Eightfold Path. There are some people, I remember back in the 1980s, yes, the 1980s, when the crust of the earth was still cooling. But back in the 1980s, there was a craze amongst the Pentecostals who would proclaim with fervency that if you name it, you can claim it. But even then, that struck me as being antithetical to Matthew chapter 4, 5, and 6, where Christ says, pray this way, your will be done. So rather than being controlling and domineering, saying, I must have this, the path we are taught is one of surrender. And likewise here, no one in their right mind sets out upon the Buddha's path because their top goal is beauty, fame, and wealth. Or at least not corporeal wealth. I mean, don't get me wrong, wealth is a wonderful tool to help many people. But as an end unto itself, it is a trap. Ragged and gaunt, they are not noticed. So once again, if one longs to be the center of attention, if one longs to be the prettiest and the richest and most important in the room, one will probably find great disappointment upon the Buddha's Eightfold Path. However, if one desires peace and love, they could find it quite fulfilling. Let us keep track of this, our third quarter, by resting the great knuckle at the base of our right middle finger upon the tip of our left middle finger, palms up in our lap. Doing so could gently invite our subtle energies to coalesce in the heart region of our chest. Together as a team, let us silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this during each inhalation to facilitate the noticing that is mindfulness. And let us silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb ease during each exhalation thus facilitating the mental release that is meditation. Let us come to this evening's final selection from the Song of Enlightenment. Okay, thank you for your patience. Disciples without means they are called poor, poor in possessions but not in virtue. Being poor, of course, they wamp. Their virtue is treasuring the jewel within. So we are continuing with our dichotomy of poverty and wealth. And we are beginning by so we're going to contrast spiritual poverty with, we're going to contrast physical poverty with spiritual wealth. So there was a point in my life where well-meaning advisors implored me to charge for my teachings, and I experimented with it, and I just didn't feel good doing that. I then stumbled upon a passage that taught, one must not be a merchant of the Dharma. One must not buy and sell it. One must give it freely. So there was a point where I was told that I was a financial burden on others, and I should be ashamed of that, and I should, sell the Dharma. And I was forced to choose between what I thought was right or the friendship of fools. So this virtue we speak of here, this is the virtue or the morality which comprises 50% of the Buddha's Eightfold Path. The morality of kind intention, the morality of kind communication, the morality of kind conduct, also known as non-violence, and the morality of commerce that is as cooperative as it is kind. And the cool thing about that is we don't have to, exhaust ourselves in a rigid manner trying to practice morality. Because here's the wild thing. The more we practice mindfulness and meditation, the more that our choices, utterances, and deeds will flow from the place of centered spontaneity, love's centered spontaneity, as opposed to anger or fear's scattered spontaneity, which is completely different. Being poor, of course, they wear hemp. Their virtue is treasuring the jewel within. So, jewel here is a metaphor for the Buddha nature. Buddha nature is a metaphor for the physiology that supports our spiritual practice, for the sympathetic nervous system that makes possible mindfulness, for the parasympathetic nervous system that makes possible meditation, and for the anterior cingulate gyrus, which makes possible empathy. And so here's the wild thing. The entirety of the Buddha's Eightfold Path is something that we are already wired, not just to practice, but to master easily, comfortably, within a week or two. So let us chant this one more time. Disciples without means they are called poor, poor in possessions but not in virtue. Being poor, of course, they wear hemp. Their virtue is treasuring the jewel within. Over the span of 12 inhalations, we can advance our right thumb in the following manner, beginning with our little finger. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Multiply that by 4 sets, and you've got 48 inhalations. We could count those 4 sets upon our left hand. 1, 2, 3, 4 sets of 12 inhalations each. To keep track of this, our final set, we could rest the great knuckle at the base of our right index finger, upon the tip of our left index fingers, palms up in our lap. Doing so, we could gently invite our real or imagined subtle energies to coalesce at the crown region of our head. So, by way of review, the most efficient way to practice mindfulness is to silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this during our inhalation. Similarly, the most efficient way to practice meditation is to silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb ease during each exhalation. Doing so facilitates the noticing and releasing known as mindfulness and meditation. You have taken your first step into a much larger world. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. In approximately 14 hours, 15 hours, I would very much like to return to tomorrow's mid-morning meditation class and group practice. Until then, if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you always.